What's good, podcast world? What's good, YouTube? Back for another episode of Charge It to the Game Sports Podcast. Got the fellas in the house tonight and very special guest, man. It's an honor. Steve Wyche of NFL Network is joining us. Steve, it's a blessing, man. How you feeling?
Fellas, man, thanks for having me on so much. Rome, Big Z, Jay sitting in his chair looking like Fife from A Tribe Called Quest.
Oh, man.
Early.
Yes, that type of energy. Let's do this.
No doubt, man. So, like I said, thanks for joining us, brother, man. But we'll hop straight into it, man. For the people that don't know, man, obviously people might know your story of, just seeing you as the guy on NFL Network, man. But obviously we know there's a lot more to it. For the people that don't know, man, can you kind of just tell us about your journey, man? Like, you're living a lot of people's dream. You know what I mean? Like my dream personally,
Well, trust me. I mean, every day I wake up, and that's what keeps you going. I say, look, 50 million people want my job, so you can go out there and go through the motions, or you can fend them off. So that's what I do. But no, I got into it. I graduated from Howard University a long time ago in sports journalism. As a print journalist. My first job was in Richmond, Virginia, covering high school sports and small colleges like William and Mary and Liberty and Virginia Union, Virginia State. And then I went on to the Miami Herald. So I went to the Miami Herald and was covering high school sports for a while. Then I got into boxing, right? I was a national boxing writer covering all the Mike Tyson fights and Riddick Bowe fights and stuff like that. So that was dope. Yeah, and then I covered University of Florida football, right? When they were taking off, when Steve Spurrier had Riedel Anthony, Jaquez Green, all those guys throwing the ball all over.
Yeah.
And then I started covering the Dolphins. Don Shula's final couple years. I was the co-beat writer with Armando Salguero, who's still there. He's with Outkick Sports now, but he's still down there covering the Dolphins. And then Jimmy Johnson's first couple years.
Okay.
And then, I ended up covering the Miami Heat, and all this happened because, we had some writers leave. Judy Batista, my colleague at the Miami Herald now. At the NFL Network now. We worked together at the Miami Herald. She left, and I picked up one of her beats. So, I was covering the Miami Heat back in the day when it was Alonzo Mourning and Tim Hardaway and Dan Marley and Jamal Mashburn. And they had those great battles with the Knicks, right? Yeah. Allen Houston and Sprewell and Larry John. I mean, it was the best.
Oh, God, man. I got so many questions about that. Like, that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, we can hit all that. So much. And then I went up to D.C. to work with the Washington Post. They hired me away to cover the Washington Wizards, during the whole MJ. I broke the story about MJ coming to be part owner, director of basketball ops.
Yeah.
So after 5 years there, I went down to Atlanta because my old sports editor in Miami went over to take over the sports section in Atlanta. And I went down there and covered actually University of Georgia football for a year and then the Falcons during the whole Michael Vick dogfighting stuff.
Oh,
and that was such a crazy story, put me on a national platform. I was getting interviewed a lot. ESPN had me do some part-time stuff for Cold Pizza, which is now First Take.
Yeah.
And from there, the NFL Network hired me. Initially I was based in Atlanta as a field reporter. In 2011, they moved me out to headquarters here in LA, where I've been since, where I do a mixture of studio work, special projects, and things like that. So, it was a journey. As you see, I've had a lot of stops. Fortunate that I had a wife, who, moved with me with our 3 kids. I hated it for them because they were a lot of different schools. Yeah. So that work-life balance is kind of tough, but everyone's out in LA and California, loving life. So yeah, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifices on a lot of people's behalves. And you said, I'm living your dream. I'm living mine too, man. And like I said, fortunate enough to have family members, to sacrifice a lot to help me be a little selfish and living out this career.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. Like I said, you got a lot of people's career job and like their dream job, and it's just a blessing, man. Big Z and Jay, man. Far away, like you heard the man before he came on. So
far away, man.
ZB Rapids, go ahead, Z. Go ahead.
Okay, so growing up, I saw where you were, I guess, renowned high school football player, playing multiple positions, and then ended up at the University of Missouri to play D1 football. So, what was your passion for football growing up?
It's interesting, because I played a lot of sports, and I was always a quarterback in high school. I loved it. I had nothing to do. Like where I grew up outside of St. Louis, was really nothing really to do with athletics, And so I got into it. I was one of the few black kids like in my area. And, I had to, fortunately I was big, it was pretty good at every sport I played. Because I had to deal with a lot, man, with that. But I was always a quarterback and I was pretty good. And I got hurt my junior year, actually making a tackle. I switched to defensive end for a couple games. As a junior, I was one of the few juniors on our team to start. Okay. And that team had gone like to the division, the quarterfinals of the state playoffs the previous year. And I came in at quarterback. We changed up our system. We were a heavy option team.
Oh, okay.
They were like, we got this big kid who could throw it all over the yard. His game is sweet. He can run. We're going to change it. We started off 0-3. And the coach was like, we're moving you. I was like, all good. I don't want, these guys have worked too hard. I don't want to mess it up. So I moved to defensive end, which turned out to be my great position. Hurt my shoulder on a play, so I couldn't throw it again. And so it just ended up being my natural position. I grew into it. Went to Missouri. I had some scholarship offers at some schools, but Missouri had the journalism school, something I always wanted to do. So I was what they call the preferred walk-on, right?
Okay. Yeah.
They were like, you're coming in, you're going to get treated like a scholarship guy, and I was. I was treated very well until the coaches that brought me in my class and got fired.
Oh man! Oh, that's where it all starts.
Yeah, look, they got fired. So the new guys came in. Woody Woodenhofer and his staff, but they were very upfront, kind of like, if you aren't part of the rotation, whatever, we're bringing in our own guys. And so, look, we'll give you, if you want to transfer or whatever, that's great. And I was going to transfer to Howard to play football under Willie Jeffries, who was a legendary coach. Yeah. But back then, transfer rules were different, right? I had to finish 60 credits to transfer into Howard. So by the time I stopped playing football in that January until the August when I got there, I lost my stinger, man. I just didn't want to play anymore. Yeah. So I went to Howard and everything panned out. But I was a pretty decent ball player. I mean, I couldn't, I'm not Javon Walker. I didn't have those type of or speed. If that was the case, I'd be doing a lot better than I am now. But
no, you're doing pretty good.
Life has panned out pretty well for me.
That's dope, man. But like I said, just being from the area and just hearing you bring up, Howard, and I guess they call themselves, is it what, the real HU? You know what I mean? So
no. The only HU.
Oh, there you go. Just so you know,
real stuff is a hashtag.
Just so you know, during my tenure, you might not know, I'm a Morgan State Bear. I didn't graduate. I played ball there for a few years, played defensive end, but we smashed Howard.
Legendary legends have come from that program, man. Come on now.
Yeah, man. But like I said, I'm on that HBCU tip, man. I'm happy what they're doing now. We actually had a guy on. Big Z and J, you got to help me out. I'm losing my train of thought right now. From last show.
Yeah, Texas Southern. He's draft eligible this year. Yeah.
Michael Badger.
Oh, Badger. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. Mike, I know you're watching this episode, man. Brother, I'm sorry. But we just had him on last show, man. And, him out of Texas Southern, he talked about his story coming from SMU. And then he transferred to an HBCU. We actually kind of just wanted to know why HBCU. He, like you said, he didn't see any difference, and he dropped off and played all of that stuff, man. Like, what is your opinion on like the HBCU landscape now? Obviously, we see Dion there. We see Hugh Jackson, who's at Grambling. We see Eddie George at Tennessee State. I'm just happy to see it. But what is your overall opinion on it so far?
Yeah, first off, there's a whole lot more NFL coaches. Bubba McDowell played in the NFL. He's down in Prairie View. Rod Milstead, who got a Super Bowl with the Niners. He's up at Delaware State. Look, man, I'm the biggest advocate there is. Even though I did not play at an HBCU, I played, at a PWI program. Mm-hmm. I understand the history of it. I understand, what's going on. And there is kind of a renaissance, right? We're seeing Dion get the top recruit in the country. And a lot of these guys from major programs in the transfer portal down to the HBCUs, and I think it's fantastic because the overall experience of the campus experience is so different than a PWI. Now, it may not be for everybody, but it's different, right? And you are taught what the mainstream educators call critical race theory, which is HBCU and Black American history down there. And it is taught by the writers who are not the victors, so to speak, right? So you have that. So then you have the whole sports angle of it where the competition is getting better at some programs. You're seeing more universities dedicate more resources. The NIL is going to help get a lot better resources, to some of these programs like a Texas Southern or Prairie View or Howard Hampton, Cheney, whatever. Yeah. So I think there is a renaissance. The one thing that we can't get caught up in, hopefully, is the fact that this was the reaction to George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, right? Everybody, all these big corporations, everybody all of a sudden got on the HBCU bandwagon to kind of, curb the, their guilt or the neglect or whatever. So hopefully now this is sustainable. And even if Deion moves on to a big school and Eddie George moves on to a big school, there's somebody in place to keep the legacy going. I mean, much the way it was back during segregation when, Eddie Robinson and Hank Gaither, Jake Gaither and all these people these great coaches filled the NFL with players and great men and leaders. So I love the rebirth. We at the NFL Network, we broadcast the Black College Football Hall of Fame Classic to start off every HBCU season. We cap it with the HBCU Legacy Bowl. We've dedicated a lot of attention to it, in part because of me and my colleague Jim Trotter and other people pushing to say you need to give equal due to HBCU players like you're giving it to these kids from Utah State and North Dakota State and everything like that, because there's going to be some key NFL players coming out of this year's draft and in future drafts because some of the talent infusion that's coming in.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. I mean, the talent landscape is getting a lot better, like you said, at certain schools. And I'm happy that, a lot of these former players and former coaches are deciding to go to HBCUs. Yeah, they could coach at, the Penn States or the Ohio States or, not be the head coach, but be an assistant coach and work their way up like some of the guys try to do. But I'm happy that these guys are kind of at the forefront. And just being a young athlete, when you see some of these guys, like Eddie George, I just remember him when I was a kid playing Madden on the front of the cover of Madden, just bowling over people. Like, man, I'm playing under Eddie George now.
And they signed to go to Notre Dame. So they scheduled a game at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So that's the publicity, the money, the national TV.
Sure. I mean, look, that's what's the exposure is what's going to happen, right? So when a kid takes a recruiting trip to the University of Oregon and he sees just mannequins with different uniforms for every game, right? And their games are on TV, or they go to Alabama and know they're going to be on national TV in primetime every week. You start doing that with HBCU kids, and then all of a sudden you go to campus and you go to a homecoming there where everybody's getting down to, neck and everything like this, talking about the side of your neck and everything, as opposed to the, no hate is, again, no hate. Yeah. But I mean, that exposure is a key thing for a lot of kids coming out because they want to get to the NFL. If they know they can go to an HBCU, get all of that, an incredible education, and understand the history of what it means to go to certain institutions, I mean, it's a win. And you're seeing more broadcast networks, including ours, including ESPN, and now several others are getting on the bandwagon to showcase these athletes in men's and women's sports.
Yeah. That's bad. I mean, like I said, I'm just happy that these guys are kind of getting their due because, they'll pick a few guys and maybe a few guys from those teams will make rosters and stuff like that. But I'm happy those guys are getting their shine. And a lot of them are going to make rosters, man. They might not get drafted, but a lot of them are going to make rosters and everything like that. But on a different tip, let's talk a little bit about the NFL draft, like some of the prospects. So, I mean, a lot of people reporting, I guess this is kind of like this QB class is kind of a little weaker than in years past. But there's a lot of these guys. Has any of the quarterbacks stood out to you? Like, my opinion, I love Desmond Ridder. That's just my guy. Maybe it's because of, his lankiness, his leadership, his athletic ability. He kind of sets it apart from me. I don't understand why he's not at the forefront. Maybe there's some things for NFL scouts see in him that it's not he's not a top QB like a Kenny Pickett I hear a lot, or even the guy out of Liberty.
Malik Willis.
Yeah, Malik Willis. Like, what do you think about this QB class? And do you think has anybody really stepped to that forefront as like the best quarterback in this year's draft, in your opinion?
Yeah, look, and this is talking to personnel people. Look, most of these guys are going to tell you that these guys are not ready to step in like a Trevor Lawrence or even like a Davis Mills last year. I remember Davis Mills was a first-round draft pick. It was kind of thrust into a starting role out of necessity and performed pretty well down in Houston.
Yeah.
So we can sit here and say now these guys aren't ready to step in, right? But come August or come September, maybe they will be, right? Because, and this is my justification for saying this. When we see these coaching cycles, what are we seeing? Quarterback whisperers, these offensive gurus, these great play schemers.
Yeah.
Well, if you're the shit, right? If you're like that dude, get your guy ready.
Right. Exactly.
you're right.
Yeah.
So look, a lot of it, you don't want to necessarily run. The guy has to go to a good situation.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of times we talk about talent, but if he goes to a bad situation, what does that matter? Justin Fields went to a Chicago Bears team that he didn't have a shot. Right. They didn't have a great offensive line. They didn't have a great running game. They had Allen Robinson, but they couldn't figure out how to get him the ball.
Right.
Right. The coach gets fired. Now he's starting all over again. Trevor Lawrence goes to Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence can't miss dude since Andrew Luck. Right. Goes to Jacksonville, has a coach that's disengaged, a completely dysfunctional organization last year. Coach gets fired, starting all over again.
Yeah.
Davis Mills doesn't go in the first round. Goes to an organization, they're got kind of dysfunctional, but they got some good pieces in place, right? Pep Hamilton, a great quarterback coach who helped groom Justin Herbert, who helped groom Andrew Luck. Howard man, by the way. But look, a lot of
he only ate you, as you said.
That's right. So let's say Malik Willis does get drafted by the Falcons today. Right. So right now they've got Marcus Mariota. So that's a perfect system for him, right? They're going to be doing some RPO based stuff. Some of the stuff that he did at Liberty, right? They just don't have a ton of talent. They don't have a great offensive line. They don't have great skill players. Right. So do you put him in behind that situation? So we can sit here and talk about these quarterbacks not being ready, but at the same time, if they go to a good situation where they have an opportunity to either learn or have good players around them.
Yeah.
I mean, that helps out, a tremendous amount in a guy's opportunities to succeed. Look at Mac Jones last year.
Yes. Wow.
He went to a New England team that went all in free agency, and he looked pretty darn good for a rookie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He sure did. I mean, and the thing is, the past they spent a lot of more money this season, and it makes sense. I mean, that organization and Bill, they're just so incredibly smart, man. It's like Bill knows his players. Like, if you look at it, it's like when he had Tom Brady. He had a great offensive line. Tom's slow as hell, and I'm a Bucs fan. I obviously know that. But, and then he had some guys on the outside, and then he understands, okay, I got a young guy. I'm going to have a solid offensive line. I'm going to add some skill position players, not that many, but he spent a lot on the defense side of the ball. They hung around in games, and they mucky things up. And,
they push.
Yeah, man. So, but, I completely agree. I mean, this quarterback class, it's just going to be interesting who's going to be first off the board. And everything. Before we move on to some NFL stuff, I did want to ask you, who's your opinion of like the top defensive end? Like the guy from Michigan. I'm sorry to say that. I know you know his name, but the defensive end,
Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah. Dropped heavy.
He dropped. I thought he's moving
I feel like he's dropping heavy.
Hold up, because what Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon, he jumped up. Kayvon Thibodeau was like the relentless number one pick in the draft at one point. He's dropping, and now he's like the far and away like the number one guy now.
Yeah. Well, look, you can't say they're rising or who's dropping. The teams right now, we're 2 weeks out. They pretty much know that at the front end of the draft, the hay is in the barn. Now it's just a matter of if there's going to be a trade or something to kind of alter what these guys think. And again, we go to scheme, right? Aiden Hutchinson is a 4-3 defensive end. He's not a 34 linebacker who's dropped, right? He's a quarterback hunter. Mm-hmm. Right, so you look at some of the schemes that these teams are playing. The Lions at the Lions at the second overall pick, they'd put him in a position to hunt, right? The Jags would put him in a position to hunt at 1. He's a hell of a player now.
Yeah.
He is a hell of a player.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden the athletic ability of a Travon Walker at Georgia, who played defensive end, they reduced him inside to tackle sometimes. Teams like that because now, you're seeing someone like a Nick Bosa who plays on the edge sometimes, who reduces down to tackle sometimes. So that position flexibility, especially if you have another pass rusher type, like this guy's a perfect fit. So it's hard to say who's the best. Kayvon Thibodeau, I mean, he is a legit athletic freak. He's long. He's incredibly strong. I remember he's from out here in California, was a top high school recruit in the country. So I've known about him, for a long time. It just depends again on your scheme and your subjective point of view, more so than who is the best or who's that guy. And when you hear about guys rising and falling, no one's really going to fall unless there's like an injury. They find out like, oh man, this kid's got a microfracture in his knee or something, right?
Right.
It's very subjective when it comes to like that. Or if a guy falls, that means the media has kind of overstated his value, not necessarily the folks who know what they're doing.
I agree, man. Great analysis on that. To get into some NFL stuff, because I know that's what a lot of our audience wants to hear about. So some current players. So talking about the media, actually, I want to get your opinion, and I'll go first on the whole Baker Mayfield situation.
I've been waiting for that.
And the guys already know how I feel about the guy. I cannot stand this guy, man. I just don't understand why he thinks. I mean, I understand betting on yourself, and obviously football is a competitive sport, but this is the same guy. I turn on ESPN. I don't really hear from your guys' network. That's why I watch you guys a lot. They talk like when Odell Beckham was in that situation, and Odell Beckham's father was, showing clips. Hey, my son's open. All of this. I'm like, yeah, like if you understand football, anybody with eyes can see. Once his first read is not open, the guy panics and he holds the ball too long and he thinks he's really athletic, but he's not. These guys start chasing. I've seen D tackles chase him down, the ends chase him down, blitz linebackers chase him down, and he's kind of held that Cleveland Browns offense back. And Stephen Stefanski, I'm sorry, I think he realized that because the Browns have a crazy offensive line. Like I remember Z is a Steelers fan. I watched that Steelers game. I remember it. And I'll remember to this day because I lost so much fucking money, Steve. Oh my God, man. I was sitting there watching the game. I went to the fridge and made myself a big ass sandwich. I come back, touchdown, Cleveland. Like, what the fuck happened? And then, you know what I mean? The game just spiraled out of the control, and Cleveland ultimately won. And everybody's like on this Baker Mayfield train. The next thing you know, he's in commercials with Tom Brady and all of the stars in the NFL.
It's crazy.
And like I said, I mean, I just don't get why this guy, they hype him up so much and I see so little. And I know that's a lot, but
no, I mean, here's the easy answer. Here's what Cleveland thought of him. They went out and guaranteed a 5-year contract to go get Deshaun Watson. I mean, you could have just like cut straight to that.
Yeah, man.
I mean, look, he's not a scrub. I mean, Baker Mayfield's not a scrub.
Yeah.
You know, he's just someone. He wasn't consistent. Okay, we can say that, but he's not a bum. I mean, he can go out and play, and odds are at some point, either right before the draft or shortly after, at some point before the season, he's going to get moved. Right? He's due $18 million. He's got 1 year left on that contract. If Cleveland calls up a team like Seattle, says, "Look, we're going to pay $11 million of this deal. Okay, you're only on the hook for 7. Give us a 3rd round pick." Maybe Seattle does it, right? Seattle needs a quarterback. They can say all they want about Drew Lock and how much they loved him when he came out. Yeah. Is he really that guy when you're trying to compete in a division where it's just straight gangsters, right? Yeah. So, there'll be some team that makes a move for him, but Baker's going to have to compete, right? He's not going to be awarded anything, and Baker's at his best when he has to compete, right? When he's a walk-on. Where did he start? Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And he competed and got the job. He goes to Oklahoma, competed, got the job, wins the Heisman. So, look, I think he's going to get moved. It just was not happening, in Cleveland for a lot of different reasons. And, that's that. He's going to be on another team next year, and then he's going to have to be scrapping from that point on because, again, 1 year left on his deal. Nobody's going to extend him. You saw what happened when Carolina extended Sam Darnold without him proving himself. Now they're stuck, and they're trying to trade him for whatever they can get.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, I think Baker's going to be a situation where he's going to have to go and compete. And frankly, if he goes and has DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, if that's an option, if that turns out, it's not a bad option to have, even though the Seahawks have a few more holes, that they've got to fill besides their quarterback right now.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I think that's a good move for him. I mean, Seattle obviously have cap space, and then he might be in another situation. Not saying they're going to be Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland, like I said, they were
loaded roster. Loaded roster.
Man, like, they were just
both sides of the ball.
Yeah, man. I think that's why I was Cleveland. Like Cleveland sucked so long. Like I'm 30. I just turned 30 not too long ago. Cleveland sucked most of my whole entire lifetime. Like I can probably count on my hands. Like my whole entire lifetime, they've literally sucked. You know what I mean?
I think Baker is their winningest quarterback in the last 30 years. I think.
So, but the thing is, I mean, I get those statistics, but his team is crazy. Like the offensive line, I don't think people understand. I think they were playing Denver, and they literally ran the ball every fucking play and won the game. Almost with Dearness Johnson. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
And like he doesn't have to do that much. And you're adding that, you let some picks go. I get it for Deshaun Watson, who's an elite quarterback. And I got faith in the guy, I trust in the guy. I'm hoping the guy really comes in and takes everybody's breath away. But I mean, staying in that same division, man, let's talk a little bit about the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati, man, I'm telling you, like, I did not see it. Like, did you see that happening?
No, they won 4 games the year before.
They outplayed
everybody. Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those people like, when they took Jamar Chase, like, man, did you see Joe Burrow get killed all last year? Then you get an offensive lineman. And then by the time we get halfway through the season, like, no, they knew what they were doing because Jamar Chase is that dude. Figured out blocking schemes to protect Burrow. They ran the ball very well.
Yeah.
And they got, look, they went out and got Trey Hendrickson. I was saying all last year, the most underrated free agent signing was Trey Hendrickson, the pass rusher out of New Orleans.
Yes.
And it all clicked.
Yeah.
But now can they repeat?
No.
Hey, that dude taking snaps from center is legit, my friend. Yeah. As long as you got one of those, you got a shot. Joey Burrow is as legit as they come.
And they're investing in the offensive line in free agency in the offseason.
They get Leo Collins. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
they got Kappa from the Bucs. I think didn't he go?
Yeah.
They definitely did some investment, but I think there's still like a lot of people be a little bit prepared, right? Because like I thought too, he don't have the line. Chase is not going to do so much, and I think that caught a lot of people off guard. I mean, and it's different being the hunter.
It can catch you off guard for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. By the time you start playing teams the second time during the season, nothing will catch you off guard. Yeah. Jamar Chase is a real one. That T. Higgins, is a real one. Tyler Boyd is a real one.
Solid. Yeah.
I mean, they had talent across the board, and it just took Joey Burrow being healthy to showcase that. Like, he is legit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is legit. Now, like you said, now they're going to be hunted. Deshaun Watson's in the division. Right? Right. We'll see what Rome Steelers do. I don't think they're finished making moves. The Ravens, we can sit there and say what they want. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And if you haven't noticed, everybody has gone to the AFC West.
Yeah.
I mean, coming out of the AFC, it's going to be hard, man. Coming out of the AFC is going to be a monster. Matt Ryan going to the Colts.
Yes.
I mean, they're going to be legit, man. They're going to be a legit Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, man. Like I said, that whole division, like the North division, it's going to be a jumble up, but a lot of people, I mean, if I had to pick right now, I think Cincinnati. I don't think people understand how my man is that good at linebacker. What's the linebacker, Big Z and J, from middle linebacker? Inside backer. White dude. I'm sorry. Oh my God, he was an absolute punisher in the Super Bowl. I just saw him everywhere. I forgot his name, but he Bengals fans know what I'm talking about.
All their linebackers.
Yeah.
And they got Mike Hilton from Pittsburgh, which hurt Pittsburgh and really solidified a veteran presence for them on defense that helped them a lot.
But they really almost got to the pinnacle. I mean, I think that. So it's a Super Bowl bust. Are we calling Super Bowl?
I don't think it's Super Bowl or bust.
No,
man,
there's no way you can call it Super Bowl right now.
Okay.
I'll never call it in April because the Duke could tear his ACL in mini camps. You know, it's
100%.
It's to where like you're not making your fantasy team right now.
Yeah, that's true. It's really
You're
right.
You're right. You got to wait and see. But I think Cincinnati's going to be much more of a threat than people are giving them credit for. Because I'm telling you, man, after seeing Joe Burrow in person, like I see them all.
Logan Wilson, that's his name.
I was like, yeah, Logan Wilson. When I saw Joe Burrow, I was like, ooh. Yeah.
He's that nice, man. Hey, I gotta go see him, man.
That nice. He is that nice. He's that nice.
Because I remember not his freshman, his rookie season. I remember he was 300-yard passing games, and then he got hurt behind that shaky offensive line
in Washington, and then the field, the garbage turf they have.
They're gonna have to do something. Washington's a story for another day. Like we live in the area, bro. Like I'm done with Washington. That stadium's trash. Everything's about it. I mean, you just scratch it off. But I mean, it's just so many stories I can say. And Jay, that's your squad too. But to stay on track, man. Let's talk about the AFC West, man. I mean, Jay is for Steve. You probably don't know, but he's a huge Raiders fan. The Las Vegas Raiders. My man is excited as hell right now.
Yes.
All right.
I've been trying to contain it.
So, I mean, what is your just them going through all that stuff last year with the rugs and what David Arnett, his craziness stuff, and then just the coaching and all of that, and they still puzzled and pieced together a playoff scenario. They were in the playoffs and but they played Cincinnati, right? Was it Cincinnati? And
hey, they got Pittsburgh in the playoffs. I'll always love them for that. Thank you, Raiders.
But I mean, what is your opinion on that division and the Raiders this upcoming season?
Well, I mean, the division is just loaded, and you start with the quarterbacks, right? You got Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert.
Wow.
Okay, and then you look at so the Raiders, they had Max Crosby and Unique Ngakoue, who I love. Yes. I think he's just a great one of the more underrated players in the NFL in terms of just a pass hunter, quarterback hunter.
Look at Jay.
But they get Chandler Jones, right? And they trade Unique Ngakoue to the Colts. Another reason why we better start talking about the Colts being in the mix.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the Chargers go out and get Khalil Mack to go with Joey Bosa, sign Sebastian Joseph Day and Austin Johnson if we get their defensive front. Jay's like, they're going to charge her. They're going to do what they do every year.
Yes, 100%.
And so, but I mean, there's just so much time. I mean, the Broncos got wide receivers. They got DBs. So, but I mean, the thing I love about the Raiders, I mean, Josh McDaniels is real. Like if he doesn't get caught up in what he got caught up in before when he tried to be Bill Belichick without the rings up in Denver, he's an incredible play schemer, right? You look at the talent they have. They got Josh Johnson. They re-upped his backup, Kenyon Drake. Mm-hmm. They bring in Jakob Johnson, the massive fullback, who's, just a complete wrecking ball for short yardage situation. Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow on the outside to go with Devontae Adams. Pick your poison, right? The only thing is the right side of their offensive line is shaky, so they got to scheme some stuff up that way. So the Raiders are frightening, man.
Yeah.
I think Derek Carr he had a very good year last year. And I think he's just going to continue that. And, that the Raiders getting out of that division is going to be so hard. And the Raiders are right there. We could talk about all the other teams, but until someone takes out 15, Chiefs are still the team to beat.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes, man.
We had him in check, man. That's how. We had him
talking that trash.
We weren't worried about the Chiefs.
How'd that work out the second time?
All right. we beat ourselves. That's what I'm saying. Not Chargers style beat ourselves, but we beat ourselves. I mean, but no, you're absolutely right. But what, Ron, we spoke about earlier how to beat Patrick Mahomes, right? Yeah. Pass rushers, get them flustered and stuff like that. And I feel we have a good job. We've done a good job at that, to be honest with you. Like you said, the O-line, I'm a little skeptical about 100%. But I don't think, while Derek Carr may be, in my honest opinion, maybe too early to say this, but maybe third best behind Russell and Mahomes. Justin is nice, and I was high on Justin coming out the draft, but I still need to see more. With Devontae
He's
Adams,
good.
I'm not seeing. No, he is good. He's good as shit. I'm not even gonna hold you. You're right. He's an animal, but I just gotta still see a little bit more.
You got to win. You got to win the big games down the stretch.
Yeah,
You got to win them down the stretch. I mean, that's what it is. Look, a lot of it's not on him. They didn't have a run defense. They put some people in place to keep the other team off the field and get the ball back in his hands. But they were prime opportunity. They had to win. I think one of their last 2 games, and they blew them both.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't understand the Chargers, man. Like I said, they're real. I mean, especially this season with Khalil Mack and
every year they're one of the most talented teams on paper entering the season. Typically, they're undone by injuries and missed field goals.
Yeah.
So we'll let this last year they were undone by not being able to get the other team off the field.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. And in Chiefs, without Tyreek Hill,
that's
there's the draft. There's the draft. I mean,
But Tyreek Hill?
Maybe teams change their identities, man. Teams have changed their identities.
Yeah.
And Andy Reid is one to ever be sold short.
Yeah.
I mean, Andy Reid, like he's been doing historically. Him with all those Eagles years, like you said, me being like I said, I'm wearing the head. I'm a Bucs fan, so them kicking us out of the playoffs almost every year kind of sucked for a long time. It was nice to kind of go in there and close down the bet. But Z, let's talk a little bit about your Steelers, man. Go ahead.
Well, no, from a Steeler perspective, it's I mean, first up is quarterback is the first thing. I mean, they've done great for the first time in a long time. They've signed solid free agents. They've worked on fixing the offensive line, which they needed to do. They plan on running Najee more, which they need to do. Ball control. I like Trubisky because he can move a little bit and he can control the offense. They're going to win.
You are talking yourself into something right now.
Run
You're working so hard.
I'm telling you,
You're
working
working so
run the ball,
hard to make
play
yourself
defense,
believe.
and then control the game. And so, because I mean, if you can't match up with the other quarterbacks, with Burrow and Watson, so they've got to do it differently. They're going to win with the defense. They're going to run the ball, no turnovers, and Trubisky just don't mess it up. And
Steve, I want to ask you this now. Like when I saw them put the pen to the pad on Mitch Trubisky,
Mitsubishi.
done so. Okay, I found my weak link. Like I said, we're a sports betting podcast, so I don't get you in trouble. But I'm definitely betting against Mitch.
I'm
Line
encouraged.
is still very shaky. I'm not worried about it. Lay the money against the Steelers. But go ahead, tell us your opinion.
So Tomlin's never had a losing season.
There you go.
I love Mike.
There you go.
They made the playoffs last year with
Yeah.
Roethlisberger not being able to move, the offense not being able to do anything. Offensive line was weak, and came to Baltimore, won that last game, made the playoffs. And so if they could do that with that, they've invested in the offensive line, which they had to do. They still need to find a strong safety. So that's a big hole. And
But
so
you don't need
whether
a whole defense, though.
well, no, the defense is going to be solid because Stephon Tuitt comes back. Hayward is still one of the best.
I mean, you still got TJ Watt. You got players. I mean, you got
And
they
Minka
got
on the
players
back
on the
end.
defense. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really worried about secondary. I mean, Tomlin's always been a very good secondary coach. He's hired Brian Flores to coach at secondary. I think those dudes would be pretty solid. But yeah, they got to find a quarterback. I mean, Mitch Trubisky is who he is. And, you can be as creative and say this and that and say all. At some point, you're going to come up against some mashers. I mean, the Browns' defense is really good. We've talked about the Bengals' defense being really good. Yeah. The Ravens' defense is always good, right? So you have to be creative. I think the Steelers are going to be in the quarterback mix in the first round. Now, will that player come in and play some? I don't know. But they've got to start preparing for something long term. But it's just the whole Tomlin factor. I've seen some of their teams like there's no way, and they end up with 10 wins. They find some way. Yeah. So again, are they going to be flashy? No, but they are going to figure out some way to be right there, at the end when it happens. And if anyone doubts that Mike Tomlin can do it, where's your evidence? I mean, where is your evidence? The guy has always found a way. He knows how to push the right buttons. They've got a very good staff. I think Terrell Austin, the new DC, who was a hot head coaching candidate about 5 years ago, is going to be just fine. So I look at the division and going in, you say, yep, the Steelers because of the quarterback play. fourth best team in the division.
Yeah.
But other than maybe John Harbaugh, what coach you taking? Okay, and that's, and I think that balances things out a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, it's gonna be a jumble up, but I mean that that Steelers, they just don't have that same zing like they used to me. You know what I mean? But like I said, Tomlin has not had a losing season in his tenure. You know what I mean? But I mean, we'll see what happens. But I mean, obviously, I'm wearing the hat and stuff like that. I want to get your opinion on my Bucs, man. I mean, Tom Brady comes back, right? Like I was already preparing. I was like, okay, is it Kyle Trask? Is it? They were talking about Baker. We just talked about it. Like, come on, Baker. Like, if Baker was our quarterback, I might have to change teams. I really might have to change teams. Like, my Colts is like my secondary team because I love Jonathan Taylor.
Lord.
You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, it's something wrong with that dude. It's just something wrong with him. And then I just think, I mean, like we'll get to the Colts later, but like, what is your opinion on the Bucs situation now? I just don't like that secondary. But like, what is your overall opinion? Like, what can they do? Can they be a real threat?
I like their secondary. I'll take them.
Do you?
Yeah.
Those
Carl
corners?
Davis coming back. Winfield.
You like?
They got players
Davis?
now.
Do you like Carlton?
Yeah.
Davis?
Yeah. I do.
Did you watch the Chiefs?
Yes, I do.
He hates Carlton Davis.
You watched my man just keep signing him out. My man's just getting smoked, man. I mean, like he's solid. He's in the box. Like, I mean, anything past below 20 or 30 yards to me is good. He's solid. But but go ahead. I'm just giving you your opinion.
I mean, it happens, but I'll take their defense.
Okay.
Look, you have to figure out, see what they're going to do at pass rush. JBP is still unsigned.
Yeah.
Shaq Barrett's a dude. We got to see if Tryon, if he evolves. He started out well last year. That could help. I think D tackle might be a place that they go out at the draft where they're picking. They might be able to get the big kid out of Georgia.
Yeah. I see that.
So, I mean, offensively they should be fine. They've got to fill in one of the guard spots. But they've got the players. I mean, everybody is back, and they signed Russell Gage, the receiver from Atlanta. Man, he's a good player now.
Oh, I saw him.
I was kind of down on him early last year, but he had an ankle sprain, and once he got healthy, he is a good player. People are like, "Oh, is he going to replace AB?" Yeah, you don't have to worry about all the other stuff. He can come in and play ball and let everybody else do their thing, and then he eats when Evans gets double covered or Godwin gets double covered. I look, the Buccaneers, there's no reason why they shouldn't win the division. I think the Saints are going to be better than what people are giving them credit for.
Yeah.
The Falcons and Panthers are going to struggle this year, but the Bucs, when you look at the NFC and you look at some of the talent drain, it's you look at the Bucs, you look at the Rams. I think the Cowboys are going to be, the Vikings are going to be better than what people think. I think the Packers, as long as they got Aaron Rodgers back there, are going to be in it.
Yeah.
So, but it's not like the AFC where you're kind of like, where's the weak link? Okay, Jacksonville maybe, Houston maybe, but everybody else,
killers, man. But yeah, I mean, for the Bucs, man. I mean, I'm just hoping that they run the ball a little bit, man. You bring back Leonard Fournette. I just think Byron Leftwich. I love Byron, but he gets a little pass happy, man. I went to multiple games, and it just seems like, oh man, like it's there. Like run the ball. I just
they had some injuries but early on they had injuries on the O line. Remember when Tom Brady was throwing it 50 times a game? I mean, yeah. Plus, if it's working, Tom Brady's going to throw it 50 times a game.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think about in that playoff game, that divisional game against the Rams, and they came back when the Rams started fumbling the ball over. It was playoff Lenny, man. I mean, those dudes were running the ball. It was Lenny who hit that tying touchdown run, like a 25-yarder. So I think now that it's going to be simply Byron Leftwich designing with Brady and play calling with Brady, it's going to be easier. Part of the rub you heard is sometimes Bruce Arians would come in late in the week and try and change some things up. Right. And, I think that part of things, that's going to slow down.
Yeah. I mean, but shout out to Todd Bowles, man. I'm happy for the guy. Getting this
absolutely.
I just love BA, man. The way he put his coaching staff together. I mean, we're the only team I think in the NFL that pretty much all diverse, like either black or somebody of a different race other than white, and then female coach. Like come on, man. Like you got to give it up for the guy. But yeah, shout out to
Well, him and the organization. The organization let him do it.
Yeah.
I mean, keep in mind, like there's some coaches who want to do some things, and the organization is not really that fond of it. You know, but then again, there's a lot of coaches who just want to hire their buddies.
Yeah, man.
You know, and won't promote and do things like that. The fact that BA establishes pipeline, the fact that the Saints have established a pipeline. I mean, salute to those organizations for trusting their head coach to build the proper coaches and letting those coaches identify themselves and do their work and step in when the time is called instead of having to go outside the building.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, Bucs fans, there you go. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about Russell Wilson. I know we just kind of touched on the West, but Russell Wilson, so he's with the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos got weapons. They got a solid defense. He's kind of like the missing piece. Like, if we look at the trades that have been happening in the past few years, not even trades, I mean, just in general, these quarterbacks going to new teams like Matthew Stafford, the Lions giving up so much. And, you know, well, not the Lions, but the Rams giving up so much to bring in Matthew Stafford. They win the Super Bowl. Before then, you know, Tom Brady signs with the Bucs. They won the Super Bowl the year before then. It's kind of seems like that's the trend. And, you know, obviously we saw with the Browns bringing in Deshaun Watson. If you get a quarterback with the new rule changes, you can pretty much win the Super Bowl, as we all kind of saw. But, yeah, like, what do you think Russell Wilson with the Broncos can be a legitimate Super Bowl? I don't see it. I see them being a playoff team. But, I mean, what is your opinion on that situation?
Oh, if Russell gets into playoffs, they're a Super Bowl contender. I mean, look, they have the, you know, look at their defense, you know, Justin Simmons, Patrick Surtain. They got Chubb. He's got to stay healthy. I mean, they've got, you know, receivers, Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton. I mean, they got players, nice running back, good offensive line. If they can get through that division and get to the playoffs, they can get to the Super Bowl. I mean, again, the AFC is going to be an unbelievable gauntlet. Yeah. Like, who wants to play the Colts, you know, at a certain time of year, you know? So I think Russell Wilson's going to be just fine. I mean, the bigger question is you've got a first-time head coach who's going to be a first-time play caller.
Right.
You have a first-time DC in Ejiro Evero, who's got to put the defense together. Okay, can they get in front of the room and get guys to buy in? And if they can get that energy and get that going, you know, all it takes is to get hot at the right time.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw the 49ers with all their injuries and all their shortcomings last year when they got hot at the end. Who wanted to play them? I mean, they almost had the Rams right there at the end now.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, the 49ers, just to switch it up, heading back to the 49ers now the whole Jimmy G situation, I don't even know if Jimmy's going to be leaving. He might just be a backup to Trey Lance. Like, do you think Trey Lance is ready? I mean, it just seems like I don't know. It doesn't seem like they fully trust the kid. You know what I mean? I'm happy for him.
Why would you say that when they're talking about trading Jimmy?
But, I mean,
If they didn't trust him, they'd be doing what Green Bay is doing with Jordan Love and keeping the incumbent in place.
But Jimmy's not Aaron Rodgers, though. I mean, like Aaron Rodgers.
Jimmy got him to a Super Bowl and had him on the verge this year, though. For what they do, you know, people say Jimmy's not great, but he's not necessarily. I think if you go to a lot of teams, they say, well, take someone like Jimmy Garoppolo over a guy who hasn't taken a snap. Right? But the Niners have seen something in Trey Lance in practice, you know, in college where he didn't play his final year except for one game because of the COVID restrictions, right? To trade up all those assets to get him and to basically say, Jimmy, we love you. This is your last year with us. So they can sit there and say all they want about, this and that. They're going to wait for Jimmy's surgically repaired shoulder to get healed. And he's probably going to get moved right before a training camp, maybe, you know, as late as that. Right. So nobody knows. I mean, talking to people with the Niners, they want to see what Trey Lance can do. But the only way they can see what he can do is to get him on the field, and they feel they've got enough pieces in place to do that. Now, they clearly have to get Debo signed because he did what kids do now, and they scrub their social media of all images and all that stuff. But they'll get that done. I mean, that's a very good organization. They'll get that done, and, you know, they got to get Trey Lance ready. Once again, I said, you know, if these guys are gurus, right? If Kyle Shanahan's that dude, he'll get them ready.
Right. Yeah.
You know, he lost Mike McDaniel. People tell you Mike McDaniel's hell of a grinder, hell of a schemer, hell of a designer. So, again, we'll see what the Niners do, but they tend to have good succession plans in place with their coaching staff. And I know personally just how good of a culture that Shanahan and John Lynch have established. So a lot of it's going to be up to Trey Lance as well, but he can get his opportunity.
And like I said, I mean, that Niners squad, I mean, that defense is crazy. Oh, go ahead, Z.
No, I was just going to ask. My question was about how teams run the cap. It just seems like Buffalo and the Rams can sign anybody, and they could manipulate the cap to keep adding, and then there's some teams who don't sign anybody. And
well, I mean, look, at some point you have to pay the bill, and so that's why you've seen teams like Dallas say we got to trade away Amari Cooper, and we're not going to go heavy because we got all these contracts coming up. We signed Michael Gallup. Right, to the big deal. Yeah. We have some younger guys we know we're going to have to pay in a couple of years. We can't have it blow up. Yeah. Whereas the Rams, you see Bobby Wagner's, was it 5-year, $50 million? But it's really like a 1-year, $10 million deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can't look at the overall summation and stuff. You have to look at the guarantees and the structure of how it's done. Now, Cleveland just blew that out of the water by guaranteeing all the Deshaun Watson's deal.
Yeah.
But, to get back to your question, there's some teams who say our team is in that window, right? So let's go ahead and manipulate the cap. Let's manipulate the structure. We'll push the bill down the road like the Falcons did for years, restructuring Matt Ryan, restructuring contracts. And now they're like, we're just going to pay up. I mean, Matt Ryan counting $40 million in your cap this year is brutal. Remember, they're still paying Julio Jones from last year, some of the dead money from that number. I mean, so at some point you're going to have to pay up. One thing that's going to help ease the pain for these teams is the salary cap because the new TV money is going to start kicking in next year. So that salary cap is going to bounce.
Yeah.
So that's going to allow them to eat some of that. But, with some of this money going up at some of the positions, I mean, some of the wide receiver numbers are insane.
Oh my gosh.
And you're seeing, the quarterback numbers are crazy. So some of those numbers going up like that, it's going to be real interesting to see how some of these teams are going to work that, which is why if you got a rookie quarterback, if you got Joey Burrow, you pump money into that team right now before he gets paid because you're going to have to start dropping some guys.
Who's that? Like Lamar Jackson coming up. Probably coming up next.
Oh, yeah, Lamar, Kyler Murray, all these guys.
Man. Yeah, man. Actually, let's talk a little bit about the Colts, man. I got a Colts fan that's a close friend of mine. I'm sorry. I mean, I honestly think the Colts are going to surprise a lot of people. But that offensive line is crazy, and a lot of people might say Matt Ryan is washed. I've seen Matt Ryan up close and personal in that division, just being a Bucs fan behind that shaky offensive line. It seemed like as soon as they said hike, defensive linebackers are blitzing right in his face. He doesn't have time to really buckle down and throw the ball. The Colts have one of the best offensive lines in football. And then, if you look at last season, he faced a lot of 8-9 man boxes. Jonathan Taylor, I'm talking about, in that offensive line, and he still did work to almost everybody in the league, man. And then their defense is really solid. I think they added an edge rusher.
Unique Ngakoue.
Yeah,
pretty good.
We think we added. I'm like, shit.
So, I mean, like, what is your opinion on the Colts?
Love them.
Yeah.
Love them. If their quarterback last year didn't get the yips down the stretch, they would have made a run.
Yeah.
Look, Darius Leonard, ball hawk, one of the best middle linebackers in the NFL. Yeah. They do have to be more stout up front against the run, right? Teams we're hitting them. At times, DeForest Buckner, arguably the best defensive tackle in the game other than Aaron Donald. They've got to tighten some things up, but they've got a really good secondary, some Pro Bowlers on that side. Matt Ryan is going to open things up for them. Because he's a quarterback that stays on schedule. He's going to press players. Like Matt Ryan, he would go into the running backs meeting and be like, okay, what do you do on this protection? Okay, if I check into this, what do you have on that? So he's – okay, let me go to the wide receivers meeting. Okay, what are you doing on this play? Blah, blah, blah. He's going to keep everybody on their toes to show how invested that he is. And that respect is something clearly that Carson Wentz didn't have with his teammates. So, you get that buy-in, that goes a long way, man. It goes a long way. When I saw, like, the Rams this year living out here in L.A. and seeing the buy-in they had in Matthew Stafford, and then the trust that they have in the organization that every player they bring in here is going to do work. That is what you call, a culture change. So I think Matt Ryan, I think they've got a good culture with the Colts, but getting a guy like him in, I think they're going to be right there at the top of a very tough AFC.
Yeah, I agree. Because I used to have trust. I didn't have trust, but I was kind of happy, with the season before the Titans, Derrick Henry, and I was talking with Tannehill. My man was an MVP candidate. The year before. I fell for it because I was all in on the Titans. Early. But the thing is, a lot of people was talking trash about that Titans defense. I let people know, Titans don't got no defense. I said, watch this season. Look at the free agency additions. Yeah. And look what they did to Joe Burrow. They messed around and lost. I don't even want to talk about that.
Well, they gave the game away with like 19,000 turnovers. You open the game with a turnover. You can't do that. Yeah. But, Jeffrey Simmons, man, you talk about great interior defensive lineman. Yes, my God. Man. He's a record. That dude, he give people nightmares, man.
Yeah, it looked like he was out there just choke slamming. Like it just throwing people all around the field. But we saved the best for last, man. I know you got to get out of here. It's getting close to an hour with this. Yeah. I wanted to ask, obviously you're out there in LA, man. And, my favorite player, Aaron Donald, man. Bro, he's the best player I've seen. Like he just flashes all over the place. Regardless of position, he's the best player in the league by far. A lot of people get mad at him, like, man, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. I'm like, yo, I don't think you understand. Like, I played defensive line. You did too. The things he does from the inside is crazy, dog. Like double, triple, quadruple team. You scheme, you try to chip him with a back and a tight end sometimes. It doesn't make any sense. He shouldn't be making any plays at all. He should have 0 tackles every game. If you look at the work, let's talk about Aaron Donald first.
Aaron Donald to pay you.
He's right though.
No, he's not wrong.
He's right. Look, I see a lot of great players.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anybody who's done it as consistently for as long as Aaron Donald, which is why don't even wait 5 years to put him in the Hall.
Yeah.
He's incredible. And if you see him in person, he's not that big. Yes. Aaron Donald's like 6 foot 285, playing positions that you've got 330 pounders play.
Yeah.
So he's unbelievably strong. He has no wasted motion. When you watch him practice, like a simple drill, like when guys are in their stance and they come up and hit the bags, right? Most of us recoil, right? We reach back, boom.
Yeah.
But what he does off the ground, it is such wasted energy, and he hits the bag with such violence, right? He's not recoiling. He's just like, I'm so strong. I'm already there. Got my hand in your chest or whatever. I'm making my move. I'm splitting that double team. He's the ultimate kingmaker. And I judge great players by calling them kingmakers.
Mm-hmm.
He got Dante Fowler paid after 1 year. Fowler gets paid by Atlanta. He got Leonard Floyd re-upped.
Yeah.
He just got Sebastian Joseph Day paid.
Oh yeah.
He's gotten so many people paid who've played alongside him throughout his career. He is a total kingmaker. Every team has to commit unbelievable mental resources each week to find out where he is on film and say, here's what they do in this situation. Because he'll play nose tackle. He'll play the 3 or 4 technique. He'll play a 7 technique. He'll wide 9 it. You can move him all over the place. And if you see him outside the outside shoulder of an offensive tackle with the offensive tackle solely adjusted to block him, you better believe everyone on that line's like, okay, we got to do this, we got to do that. The running back, we got to get out there. Like I said, you talk about exhausting mental resources to a dude.
Yeah.
That's why, and this is where Rome, you're right there. He is the best player in the NFL, and it's a damn shame that the MVP is a quarterback award.
Thank you.
To me, he should have won it 5 or 6 times.
Thank you.
And even if he doesn't have the 16 or 17 sack numbers, what he does to affect games is unreal. His stamina, he doesn't come off the field. Aaron Donald may rest 4 to 5 plays a game. And if you see what he does at the end of games, like we saw in the Super Bowl, just goes to show you that he's Leonidas or whoever my guy was in 300, who's battling to the last soldiers on the field.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, great analysis on that because it just doesn't make any sense. A lot of people might say the joke, "Oh man, it doesn't look human." The guy doesn't look human. Like on TV, I obviously never met the guy. I talked to the guy. It just doesn't look human. Like when you understand defensive line play. And you're like, okay, you double team, drop your shoulder, and you create a pile, or you try to get through. But this guy, he smashes double teams. I mean, the only way you can potentially block him is with triple teams. There's numerous, photos of him being blocked by 3 different people.
Yeah, teams just build a wall
every time.
Yeah,
and he's got a ping pong. He's a ping pong. Well, guess what? Everyone else is singled.
Yeah.
Well, Leonard Floyd's getting 10, 12 sacks a year.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's why Ashawn Robinson dominated so much in the playoffs last year. I mean, like I said, he is a kingmaker.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's crazy. It's ridiculous. But ultimately, they won the Super Bowl, man. But, I mean, Steve, I know we're going to get you out of here, man. I could talk to you all day about football. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's crazy. I think about football from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep. Like, we are a sports podcast. We talk about basketball. We talk about WNBA. I mean, we got the play-in game tonight. I'm like, fuck that play-in game. I get to talk with Steve Wyche of NFL Network. I get to talk football with my boys. So that's what it is, So thanks for coming on, man.
Oh, no, I appreciate you, bro. Big Z, Fife Didog.
I'm like, I know he's not gonna let me out.
But hey, that wraps up the show, everybody, man. Like I said, Steve Wyche of NFL Network, man, a real dude. Brother, I love what you do for for us, our people. And like I said, it's just good seeing somebody that represents us on these major networks so that, some little boy or little girl somewhere that could be me. So it means a lot.
Appreciate
man.
that. Really
so
appreciate that, man. Much love.
Yeah, man. But we'll get out of here. So everybody, we'll close out. Steve, thanks for coming on, and we'll see everybody next show. Peace, everybody.
Appreciate you, fellas. Take care. Have a good night.
All right, thank you.
All right.